Hey everyone, MelticMan234 here. Well, what a year it's been for 2020. Virus pandemic infecting the world, lots of political drama, and me clinging on to what little sanity I have left from all of this. So yeah, I'll just talk about how I pretty much spent my whole year in 2020, starting off with the pre-pandemic phases from like January, February. And during that time, I mostly spent my time keeping myself occupied playing a lot of CTR Nitro Fuel with the last couple of updates we got. I already talked about my thoughts on the Grand Prix events on a different update video, but I don't think I ever got around to talking about the post Grand Prix update. Yeah, I think that's what it's usually called. Sometimes I just call it the Beanox update because we did get a lot of skins and cosmetics themed after the company, as well as introducing the developer time trials, the most challenging time trials ever. Yeah, super hard. I tried beating them all. Last I checked, I only had like 15 tracks left to beat on the PS4. So I'm slowly getting there, although it's been a while since I played it. Really should get back to it, then maybe one day those master wheels will be mine. Because that's the only thing I have yet to unlock in the PS4 version. Then we also got new characters, Baby Cortex, Baby Entropy. Apparently they were originally planned to be featured in the Back in Time Grand Prix, but they decided to save them for later. I figured it was kind of cheap for them to just recycle the assets from the Insane Trilogy for that. Lab Assistant, that was a humorous character to drive around in. Funny how in this game he acts more like a dork, being all excited about racing and everything, like, yeah, woohoo! And Fixed Rillaroo, that was a weird one. This was obviously done because a lot of people really didn't like how the original Rillaroo face model looked like. I honestly had no problem with it. Every time I see that face, I immediately think of Jack Black for some reason. Yeah, Jack Black voicing Rillaroo. That would be something. So this fixed version was made to make him more faithful to how he looked like in Crash Bash. Basically, they just recycled the same model and just gave him a different head. I always find it weird that they made Fixed Rillaroo his own separate character rather than being an alternate skin for Rillaroo. And then, of course, we got the Iron Checkpoint Crate, a secret playable character. Yeah, that was great. Crates have always been a staple of the Crash Bandicoot franchise, so why not make it a playable character? Plus a nice little nod to Crash Bash with the purple exclamation mark crate. Yeah, I know he originally came from an in-joke from the fan base and whatnot. I already went into a more detailed look about that in my Crash vs. Sonic video, talking about why something like that showing up in Crash media makes more sense, rather than shoving in some anti-Sonic symbolism into official Sonic media. As for the rest of the content, it was mostly a lot of recolored skins, just kinda lame. Although I did like some of them, like Negative Gangsta Pinstripe, Oil Monster Fake Crash, and Black Velvet Witch Tana. The new cosmetics, though, few were nice. Like, we had some for the Lab Assistant, and some for different characters, like Pajama Ripperoo and Alice Coco. I still think it would have been cool if we got more costumes for the Lab Assistant, like his endoskeleton from Crash 3, or maybe Disco Dancing Lab Assistant from the end credits of Wrath of Cortex. So yeah, after that update, news on future updates went quiet for a while. I was kind of hoping that their last big update would be like this big massive content to celebrate the game's 1-year anniversary, but that never happened. It wouldn't be until many months later when Beanox finally came out and said, yep, the post-Grand Prix update, that's our last major content update to the game. So yeah, no more updates, no more big updates to that game. Bit of a shame, but hey, we still got a lot of content from all the Grand Prix events we had. And I'm still happy that I got my wish in seeing them bring back Yaya Panda. Well, yeah, aside from playing Nitro Field, I also went and saw the Sonic the Hedgehog film in theaters, which was the last film that I saw in theaters. You're probably wondering, what are my thoughts on the 2020 Sonic the Hedgehog film? And then the pandemic hit, which happened right after I got a job working at a TV station and moved from Michigan to Illinois. Sometimes it can be a little bit, mentally draining. But, I just gotta keep telling myself, hey, you finally have a job you've been working for, you got this, you can do this, all those years in college are paying off, and such. And for the rest of the year, I just kept myself locked up in my apartment, only going outside for work, groceries, and the bank, and sometimes going to the comic book store to get the newest issues of Sonic and MLP comics that IDW makes, or sometimes a video game store. My biggest challenge this year was mostly trying to keep my mental health under control, and it feels like I've become more emotional recently these past few months, Sometimes I'm fine, and other days I just break down in tears. That Gmod comic I made pretty much sums up 2020 for me, putting myself in self-isolation in this pandemic out in the middle of nowhere. And the sad thing about me is that sometimes I tend to argue with myself. You know how they say that your greatest enemy is yourself? Well, that's pretty much true for me, especially how it was in 2020, going on about whether or not it was a good idea to move out, becoming paranoid about things. Heck, in one of my depressed moods back in 2020, I felt like the reason why I kept myself in self isolation was thinking that everyone hates me, which isn't really the case, but that's what happens when you deal with a lot of paranoia and depression. Well, yeah, it's been rough just dealing with this constant feeling of loneliness. Only comfort I have is just cuddling with my plushies, chatting with some friends and family online, whether it be Discord or Zoom or whatnot, and subjecting myself to a lot of ASMR videos. Now, I usually listen to either Ting Ting or Latte. I find their voices very soothing and comforting. So, aside from those things keeping me occupied, I also had a lot of video games to keep me occupied as well, like playing through Sonic Adventure on the GameCube. Ah, back in the day when the Sonic games had better story and actually knew how to make a 3D Sonic game, unlike this meta-era garbage. Well, this time I finally got around to collecting all the emblems in Sonic Adventure DX, the GameCube version. That was the version I usually grew up with. So I managed to unlock Metal Sonic and unlock all of the Sonic Game Gear titles, which was nice. I finally got to experience Sonic Labyrinth and Sonic Blast for the first time. So I wanted to switch over to something more lighter, which led me into playing through LEGO Dimensions again. Still a fun game to play despite the whole Toys to Life gimmick. Real shame that Year 3 never happened. I would have loved to play around with that Lord Vortex fun pack that they had planned for that year, or whatever previous year they had going for it. I also played through SpongeBob Battle for Bikini Bottom Rehydrated. Yeah, that was neat, playing through a remastered version of that game. Yeah, it was neat. Next was Animal Crossing New Horizon. First time I've ever played an Animal Crossing game. And boy, this game was a big help in getting me, keeping my mental health under control. I found it very relaxing, just walking around, crafting things, exploring and expanding things, and chatting with my villagers on my island, like Rudy and Rocket, and especially Fauna. She's so precious. Yaw. And of course, I played through Crash 4 It's About Time. It was great to finally play a brand new Crash Bandicoot game after all these years. And it's great. It feels more like Crash 2, where it focuses more on the platforming and less on the vehicle levels. But when it comes to 100%ing it, oh boy, there's a lot to collect in that game. I find this game very similar to Mario Sunshine or Banjo-Kazooie Nuts and Bolts, as in they're fun games to play on a casual playthrough, but they're quite the marathon if you're going for the 100% route. Speaking of Mario, I also got the Mario 3D All-Stars on my Switch before they decided to stop making them. Yeah, I find that pretty dumb with that limited release, because yep, after March we're not making them anymore. I have played these games before on their respective consoles, so I figured, hey, it's nice to play 3 of these games on the go in one package. And more recently, I've been in a Kingdom Hearts mood, especially since I got Kingdom Hearts The Story So Far as one of my Christmas presents. Basically, it combines all the HD compilations into a 2-disc case. I just felt it'd be more convenient to have almost the entire franchise in one package. So yeah, just plowing through Kingdom Hearts Final Mix, Rechain of Memories. Now I'm going through Kingdom Hearts 2. Of course, that's always a great game to play through. As for video content that I did for 2020, well, I was mostly in a creative slump during the pandemic. And I said I would try and be more active in making videos. Yet here we are. Then again, no one could predict that we'd be dealing with this kind of pandemic. I guess I did stick to my statement with making a lot of videos. And of course, a few filler videos like those meme stuff or whatnot. As well as re-uploading the first episode of Forgotten Media, that being Sheep in the Big City, after it was suddenly taken down for copyright reasons. That was a big blow to me. Despite the mumbled audio, the first episode was always a passion project of mine. It took me a while to walk that off. But I guess it did give me an opportunity to add in some stuff related to the show that I forgot to mention or didn't know of at the time. I managed to finally finish the Ponyville Mysteries chapter books episode. That was a very time-consuming episode, covering a chapter book series with little to no illustrations, so I had to make up my own images to provide some visuals. Of course, first time I ever covered something related to My Little Pony Friendship is Magic on the show. And I guess I could cover more, like mostly a lot of the literature stuff, like all the other chapter books that nobody reads. Or maybe the official MLP manga volumes that have flown under the radar for most people, especially since Volume 3 is going to be coming out in March of this year, I think. And then came the holiday specials, and man, I was really cutting it close with trying to get them released on time. Usually, I don't have a set deadline when working on Forgotten Media episodes. It's usually just the holiday specials. Of course, it was also the first time I decided to do a Thanksgiving themed episode. That was interesting to do. But man, when December came, it was a nightmare to get through that month. I was super busy at work while doing a daily advent calendar series, all while trying to do the Forgotten Media Christmas special. Yeah, I think that was a little bit overkill for me to end the year on. One big thing that did help me and get my motivation back from my creative slump was seeing a status update from Mr. Prawn. He's a guy that makes a lot of Gmod animated videos, and I occasionally see him in a Discord server that we're both on. He basically said he wanted to avoid making any mentionings to COVID-19 and the pandemic during his videos, as he wants to try and keep them timeless. And that was definitely a big help to me, because I can relate to that and don't really get into big political stuff or whatnot. So that pretty much became a new rule for me with making videos by just avoiding making any references to, that kind of stuff. Obviously, these update videos are the only exception. I felt like my part with continuing on with making videos on YouTube, oh, I don't get paid for making them, I don't get much attention because YouTube hates me and whatnot. But for my case, I felt like my part with continuing on making videos was being more like how entertainment was like during the Great Depression, because we're still dealing with the pandemic. So with my case, making videos just to have that escapism from the harsh reality, at least every now and then. Speaking of December, doing Christmas time was kind of interesting. I decided to do it with my family much later because I had to drive back for a dentist appointment, so after that we would properly do Christmas time and open presents and whatnot. Saved me the hassle by doing just one trip instead of two trips, so that saved me a lot of money with getting gas. I did get some nice presents from the event. I already posted on my Twitter account, like, showing off some NBC merchandise, as well as some special custom Oogie dice that my sister made, as well as a custom teddy bear that my parents made to help cheer us up. And of course, we also got some fun ideas for Forgotten Media, like the Sonic Underground Tiger electronic game, or the Wonderland comics that I briefly mentioned in my Haunted Mansion comics episode. As for being alone on Christmas Eve and Christmas Day, well, I mostly spent those days just catching up on Christmas films I missed out over the years, so here are my brief thoughts on the films that I've seen during that time. The 2009 version of A Christmas Carol, starring Jim Carrey. Yeah, I finally saw this on Disney Plus, and, well, it was something. I'm kind of mixed about it. On one hand, it does look nice, and it's, faithful to the original story for the most part, but on the other hand, there's a lot of scenes that feel weird or just drag on for too long. Like, there's this very lengthy chase sequence with Scrooge during the Ghost of Christmas Future segment, where he's constantly being chased around by this ghostly carriage. You can clearly tell this film was tailor-made for the whole 3D gimmick back then, and watching the film without 3D, yeah, this segment really drags the film. The 2018 version of The Grinch. I have seen the other versions, the animated classic is a classic, and of course the Jim Carrey one's fun for the most part. So I was curious in seeing how Illumination Animations would do their version. And it's nice. Sure, the models still have that same Illumination style to it, but the backgrounds are cool. Have a very nice Dr. Seuss theme to it. And this is another version where the Grinch has a backstory, but I feel like this one was kind of better handled, like in the live-action version where it was kind of mean-spirited. Even so, I really didn't like Benedict Cumberbatch's portrayal of the Grinch. He just comes off as sounding bland to me. But then again, I haven't really seen him in that many films, so maybe I'm just being too harsh on the guy. Arthur Christmas. That was a fun film to watch. The whole concept of different people taking on the role of Santa Claus over the years was a neat idea. And it's just a fun film. Arthur's a lovable dork, and the grandpa character is hilarious. So yeah, it's nice. Klaus, the Netflix exclusive film. I remember at first glance I thought this film was some sort of a spin-off to Rise of the Guardians because the designs of Santa almost look similar at first glance, but it turns out these films have no connections. I remember hearing people talking about this film so much back in 2019, like, oh, this film's good, it's really good. So I finally went and watched it, and yeah, it's really good. I was surprised to hear that it was a traditional animated film while the computer-generated stuff was used just to give the colors more depth. So yeah, I feel like this is a film that shows how to bring back traditional animation and improve upon it the right way. As for the film itself, it's really good. The story's well developed, the characters are all likable and fun. There is one cliche to the film, but other than that, it's really good. It's definitely a must-watch for the holiday season. I also saw the 2019 version of A Christmas Carol. This was a three-part miniseries that was more of a darker retelling of the story. It was interesting, but at the end, I don't really remember much about it. I know the whole Christmas past segment was very long, but I did like some of the ideas, like the Christmas past spirit is the shapeshifter taking on the forms of people and figures from Scrooge's past that he knew. And the ghost of Christmas yet to come is this kind of ghostly undertaker with his mouth stitched shut. That was kind of interesting. But yeah, a lot more darker imagery, a lot more adult themes, a lot more adult everything. I've seen a lot of different adaptations of A Christmas Carol, and for this one, yeah, I didn't really care for it. I don't know, I guess it's just a little too bleak and kind of boring for my taste. Which is rather funny because after that, to counterbalance it, I decided to watch Mickey's Christmas Carol to lighten the mood. This version was actually how I was first introduced to the Christmas Carol story, and now that I think about it, it was also the first time I was introduced to Scrooge McDuck. So yeah, I mostly watched that out of nostalgia. Oh yeah, one other film that I saw from Disney was The Small One. It's an old short film that they made back when Don Bluth used to work at the company. And even by just looking at the artwork of this cover, you can clearly tell it's a Don Bluth film. But yeah, I liked it. It was cute. So now that 2020 is over, what do I have planned for 2021? Well, I'm most likely going to try and focus more on Forgotten Media, especially since this year will be the 10th anniversary. Yeah, January 27th of this year will officially mark the 10th anniversary for the show. So just like my 10 years on YouTube video, I'll also be making a 10 years of Forgotten Media, talking about how I make the series and highlighting some certain episodes that I'm like. I've also been planning on doing a special Oz month for Forgotten Media. I did tease about it in my Thanksgiving special, and if all goes well in the planning stages, I am planning to post or start the series. It's going to be a 4-part series, and it'll begin in May of 2021. Now, I chose May because that was the month that the first Wizard of Oz book was released. I've also been thinking about doing a Kingdom Hearts retrospective, as, of course, I mentioned I've been in a Kingdom Hearts mood recently, and I definitely have some history with the franchise. It was going to come out sooner, but I put it on hold because I wanted to wait for the Remind DLC to be released. Well, it did get released, and after that, I kind of forgot about the script. Of course, nowadays, like, oh, now they added Dark Road into the mobile game. Like, oh, now they have Memory of Melody released. Now I have to add those into the script. Ay. Hope I can get it out before Kingdom Hearts 4 or Kingdom Hearts Rise of the Cheese Wheels comes out. Speaking of retrospectives, I have been thinking about deleting my 3-part Sonic the Hedgehog retrospective. I'm just not really happy with it anymore, and I just want to get rid of it. I could try remaking it, where I just simply cover a majority of the Sonic games I played and completely ignore mentioning anything from the meta era, but I don't know. If I do that, I'll probably have to scrap the Sonic Forces review as well, because it mentions the retrospective. Oh well, that's another video I'm pretty happy with getting rid of anyway. I might do another Kingdom Hearts music all versions video. The one I did on the Spooks of Halloween Town thing was just something I did for fun, so it'll be neat if I decide to do another one combining other versions of the same themes into one video. I have been thinking about doing one for the Shrouding Dark Cloud one. That's a, classic little tune and kind of interesting when Kingdom Hearts 3 decide to remix it. One of the video projects I've been thinking on is doing some kind of a personal retrospective on the Cute Mario Brothers web series, because, yeah, I have heard the news that they announced that they're going to be canceling the series and moving on from there, so it's a real shame. Those guys were definitely a big part of when I started getting into YouTube. In fact, they were the reason why I started my YouTube account. So yeah, I'll most likely make some kind of a personal retrospective talking about what I thought of the episodes, and maybe I'll throw in a little cameo mini episode of Action Mario and Luigi Plush for that, just for old time's sake. And that's what I have planned for my channel. Outside of that, I don't really have much planned. I did record some lines for a cameo for an upcoming Sonic Dissected episode, that being the Sage Games Part 2 video. So expect to see that coming out eventually, unless Roger forgets to put my audio file in the video. But yeah, not much. I'm sure it would be neat if we decide to try and do some proper work on the IDW Sonic Dissected Round 2 episode. We've had that idea been tossing around for about a year or so, so maybe we'll get around to it one day, though knowing Roger, who knows when that'll happen. He's always busy with other animations or other things. Anyway, that concludes this video, so I'll see you next time.